Okay, let's get started. Welcome to today's webinar on how to use artificial intelligence to help learners recover lost ground due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm Lewis Johnson, the host of the overall series. I'm speaking to you today from Hawaii. You may hear some birds in the background as I speak today. So what we're going to be focusing on today is how COVID-19 is affecting the way that we teach, and in particular the way we teach foreign languages. And it is having an impact around the world. So these are some recent statistics that we're still seeing large numbers of students around the world affected by either total school closures or partial school closures. So nearly 1 billion students are still being affected by the pandemic, and this is forcing schools, teachers to change the way they teach. And this is having a big impact. And as students are coming back to class now, we're beginning to see the impact of extended period away from class, how that is affecting their achievement. So these were predictions that were made by the Brookings Institution earlier this year. When the pandemic first hit in March and schools closed, what they predicted is that we would start to see a divergence in achievement among students. Some would be able to continue to work just fine in a working from home or working online, so their achievement would continue to increase. But some would struggle. Some would have difficulty having access to the right technology, having a good place to study at home. And so in the worst case, what we would expect is that some students returning to school in September would be farther behind than they were a September a year ago. So there's a lot more, if you will, variation in achievement among students, and teachers then have more work to do to keep track of students, to help students who are at different levels of achievement. This is a particular problem in the United States, where we have a lot of English language learners who are in classes that are taught in English, and so they are very likely to fall behind. They have more difficulty keeping up with classroom activities in general, and then when you put them online, it's that much harder for them to keep up with learning that's given remotely. And so we would find this to be the case in many countries where the language of instruction is different from the language which is spoken at the home, in the home. A common solution that schools are turning to is to use Zoom, either in a fully online format, what's sometimes referred to as Zoom school, or in a hybrid format where some students are at home, some students are online, perhaps at different times of the week, or perhaps all at once. And what we're seeing is that this is challenging. This is very difficult for teachers as well as for students. Here, for example, are some quotes from a recent article talking about the impact of remote learning on foreign language learning. So quotes from the students: "I feel like I'm learning a lot less because when I'm in the classroom, I'm forced to listen to every single word." So she's saying that when she's online, she can stop, she can look up a word on her phone, whereas when she's in class, she needs to focus on the language activity. She doesn't have that structure online. It's hard for people to understand that not everyone has a silent environment to do their classes in. A common complaint. So, and this is an example of the disparity that we see of learning environment for students who are studying at home or wherever they can. There have been 2 lectures already where instructors Connection has been unstable. So we didn't really understand anything she was saying. So a common complaint, online teaching works most of the time, but when it doesn't, then the whole class suffers. And this frequently occurs when instructors are teaching over a Wi-Fi connection. It's a lot harder to be one-on-one with my professor. You can't stay after class and ask a question. So I think what we're seeing is that people assume that teaching the class is simply going online and teaching the class, whereas in a true in-person lecture environment, students can come up afterwards, ask questions, be able to interact with their teachers in ways that they are not always getting now. Comments from teachers. Carrying out tasks or activities in an online Zoom meeting takes much more time. What's very easy to orchestrate in a classroom setting takes much more time, effort, and preparation online, and it is easy to underestimate that. And then this final comment, Zoom is not working for me or for students. Connections are, for some are slower than others. Students get kicked out. So there are a range of different problems that occur in a online synchronous learning experience. And this all suggests that we need better ways of complementing the synchronous instruction with asynchronous instruction. So to summarize, what we find from the teachers that we speak with and from our research is that COVID-19 continues to have the following impact on learners. Economic disparities among students have been exposed and exacerbated. There is unequal access to learning resources, increased disparities in learning outcomes, and then also our affective effects. Feelings of loneliness and isolation, of separation from in-person activities. And a result, a loss of motivation, which can have impact across the board in student achievement. The impact of COVID-19 on teaching, too much demand for teacher time and attention in a typical Zoom or hybrid configuration. It's harder to assess student knowledge and needs because teachers have less one-on-one interaction with students. It's harder to address those social and emotional needs when students are remote. It's harder to keep students engaged and accountable to make sure that they're actually engaged in the task and not doing something on their phone at the same time, like we heard that quote from a moment ago. And there's a big need for professional development and resources. Teachers are forced to teach in a new way, and so they need the training in how to use the new tools effectively to achieve good learning outcomes, perhaps in a different way. So fortunately, artificial intelligence and artificial intelligence applications can help address a number of these concerns. So in the case of language learning, one way that can help is by creating simulations of realistic conversations in which learners can practice their communication skills with avatars. This is something that they can practice asynchronously at their own pace. It provides immediate feedback and personalized instruction, and helps learners refresh and recover lost skills. So this is an area that we've particularly been concerned with as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. How can we use AI technology to help learners get back up to speed in speaking a foreign language and stay on track? And I'll give you some examples of how that's done. AI can also provide analytics for teachers to give them insights of how students are progressing, which students may be disengaged, which may be struggling. So what we're seeing, and what I will show you, is by looking at the analytics of learner performance over time, you can get a pretty good idea of which students are progressing well and which students are having difficulty. And this can help you as a teacher to focus in on the particular students that need help and the particular areas of instruction that need to be reinforced. So we have been developing these capabilities in the context of the Alelo Nskill learning platform that provides asynchronous communicative practice with AI avatars, that performs formative assessments of learner skill as the learners are interacting with the platform, provides feedback, provides personalized exercises focusing on the skills where learners appear to be weak, and provides analytics for learners as well as teachers to track progress, identify students who might be struggling. So I'll give you a bit of an example in a moment, but basically if you have not seen the Nskill simulations before, an avatar appears on the screen and the learner engages in a conversation with that avatar in a simulation of a realistic setting. This can be on a laptop computer, as I will show you here. It can also be on a mobile phone. And by the way, what we now see is that one way to address the limited, the disparities in access to technology is giving students more opportunity to practice on their mobile phones at places of their choosing. As the learner interacts with the platform, they can get access to help, such as a transcript of what was said, and also suggestions of what to say. And so what we'll find with students that in the current situation, there are going to be some students who initially rely on that help quite a bit because their language skills have degraded somewhat. And so, and that's fine, but then the objective is to help them get to the point where they are able to engage in these conversations without relying on help, such as reading a transcript or reading hints in order to get through it. We're now tracking the number of hints that learners are using. So this is another analytic that can be helpful for teachers to see which students are going through these exercises easily, fluently, without relying on help, whereas which ones are spending a lot of time and relying on a lot of help to get through them. So I'll show you here on my web browser how that works. So what I have here are 3 new versions of Nskill that we're now making available. Before we go, just checking chat here, saying hello from UVM Toluca, Mexico. I'm glad that the Toluca teachers are here online, and you'll see that we rely on a number of examples of techniques that teachers at Toluca are using to make good use of Nskill, as well as you'll see some examples of some of the UVM students. So those of you who are tuning in from Latin America and Mexico in particular, I really encourage you to take a look at what the folks in Toluca are doing. They've done a very good job of implementing Alelo as part of their teaching program. So as I was about to say, we now have 3 new updated English courses that we are making available. There's basic English for students that are just getting started, transitional English, which is for students that are progressing toward an intermediate level, and then a new course we call refresher English, which is aimed at students that have already achieved an intermediate level, but need some help to get their proficiency back up to where it once was. And so here, the simulations are a bit more challenging, and we encourage the learners to keep practicing. What we find here is that when students are refreshing their skills, if they do practice repeatedly, they will show significant improvement much more rapidly than they did initially. So I'm going to open up the refresher English course. And before I get started in this, just to show you this, so for the refresher course, we selected a set of simulations that can be practiced at a range of different language proficiencies that would be beneficial for high intermediate learners to regain their language skills, as well as low intermediate learners who now need to recover what they learned before. The example that I'm going to be going through here is one where the learner is at a train station buying a train ticket, in this case to New York, and we have a particular time that we need to get to New York to see a play. We have a limited budget, and so we need to make sure that we buy the right tickets at the right price that arrive at the right time in order to be able to get the play and stay within our budget. So I'll start this.
Hi, welcome to the Metropolitan train station. Where are you traveling to?
Okay, so an advanced learner ought to be able to just engage in this conversation without relying on much help. So we got a question here, fairly complex utterance, so I should be able to respond in kind. I'm planning a trip to New York. I'm wondering if you can tell me what tickets are available.
Great, I can help you plan your trip to New York. What day would you like to depart?
So here for high proficiency learners, it's more of a simulation of realistic conversation with a native speaker. For students though who are their comprehension skills may have degraded somewhat, they might want to rely on a transcript to see what it was that was said. And student might make mistakes. It doesn't matter. This platform is very tolerant of common learner mistakes. So for example, I might want to say, I want to leave at 1st May.
I have a couple of trains that day. Does the train leaving at 2 p.m. work for you?
So again, I can review what I said here. If I make a mistake, in here, in case I made the wrong preposition, my word order was a bit strange, but the avatar was able to understand me anyway. We have a set of different suggestions of what I might say. And if I'm not sure what to say, I can ask for further hints. So I could say these, or I could say any comparable thing here. It's important to know that we're not limited to saying these specific utterances that you see here. So, so when does that train arrive?
The train will arrive at 10 p.m.
Okay. So I could say, okay, all right, that's too late. Do you have another train I could take?
I have a train leaving at 8 a.m.
That's good. Put me on the 8 a.m. train, please.
Okay. A one-way ticket in first class is $175, and a coach ticket is $100. Would you like a first class or coach ticket?
Give me the coach ticket, please.
Okay. Do you need a second ticket to return?
No, thanks.
Okay, we charge $20 for each bag and allow up to 2 bags. Will you have any luggage?
I'd like to bring 4 bags.
Okay, I'll have your total in a moment. Great, I have 1 coach ticket for you and 2 bags. That will be $140. Enjoy New York.
So now I get feedback on how well I did. And actually I did not do very well. So overall, the score to be looking at here is what we call the mastery score, which shows overall performance in the simulation. And that's a combination of a couple of things. One is how many objectives I met in going through the conversation. So it turns out I only met 2 out of a possible 4. The amount of time that I spent, 4 minutes, and the number of conversational turns per minute. So this is a metric that you may not be familiar with as teachers, but can be very useful. So we're actually tracking how many conversational turns where the avatar says something and the student responds, how quickly the student is able to do this. So this is a good measure of fluency. In fact, we look at data from students at different levels of proficiency to see what number of turns per minute is typical. And so, by the way, so this number here, 1.97, is quite low. And part of the reason for that is that I was talking with you about the platform as I was going through the conversation. A beginner would get, the goal for them is to get up to maybe 4 turns per minute, for intermediate up to 5, and for native speakers might be able to get up to as much as 6, although it depends on the particular simulation. We actually look at data from each simulation to see how people perform on that. But the point is that this is a way that we can establish proficiency targets for students at various levels to see whether they are performing at level. So you may have students in an intermediate class, but it's taking much more time for them to complete the conversation. They should be encouraged to practice more so they can get that turns per minute up. You can see furthermore, in terms of feedback, where I did well. So I was able to tell Sophia, the ticket agent, where I wanted to travel. I did not ask enough questions about when the train arrives, when it departs, when it arrives. So yeah, so I didn't ask enough follow-up questions, gather enough information. So this is if you will, one of the can-do statements that we are testing in this simulation is a student able to ask and understand questions about times, about directions, about some activity. Oh, 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 oh. I did stay within my budget, although that's because I only bought one ticket. I should have bought a return ticket as well. So now I have a choice. I can, it selected some practice exercises for me that I can go through on the areas where I had a difficulty. Or I can go back and try the conversation again. And all these statistics of performance is being captured, and actually we can review that. So you can see, for example, trip to New York. I have, I tried for this new version, I tried it 4 times. I finished it 4 times, and I completed, spent a total of 13 minutes practicing it. Then I can look further and see how I performed each time I practiced. So the first time I only got a mastery score of 40%. I tried it again. I got up to 73%. And you see here the number of I met more objectives the next time. And then this last, and then here I got 112%. And why is that? Well, I was able to complete this at 4 turns per minute. So again, we are normalizing these scores based upon what we expect for students at the level that they are studying at. So I'm a native speaker of English. If I practice and work at it, I can sometimes get above 100%. Students at this level would very rarely be able to get to 100 or above. They might be able to do it, but not consistently. So now what gets interesting is that we now have, are making these statistics available for teachers as well. So this is a new capability that we are providing and rolling out to teachers this month. So this is an online dashboard that allows teachers to manage their classes online and also to track their performance. And so we'll see some examples from some actual learner data. So I can now, so here for this teacher has these different classes. We can then go and look for a particular class, let's say intermediate English, which, first of all, which sets of simulation modules are made available. So in this case, basic English and transitional English. And we can then see different students, how they have performed. So this, by the way, for you, those of you at UVM, this is based on actual data we collected earlier in the year from UVM students. The names have been changed, but the student profiles are realistic in actual data. So I can look at some of these students and I can see, oh, okay, so some of them have spent hardly, I'm looking here at the total time that each student has spent. And what you see here is that some students, a couple of students have spent a lot of time practicing. That's very good. And then some hardly at all. So they might be experiencing technical problems or just haven't made the time for it. Here's one student who never even signed up on the platform. So you see, teachers now can follow what their students are doing and holding them accountable. Now we can look in more detail how each of these students is spending their time. So for example, this student here, what we see is that they've only attempted 2 simulations. So they need to I mean, it depends, of course, upon how you integrate with your curriculum. That may be fine for if you just want the students to get started on a couple of simulations. But if you expect them to do more, then you would want to see this in the profile here. We see that the mastery scores are not very high, and that this student in particular spent a lot of time just on this one simulation, nearly 15 minutes. So, what's going on here? They might have been possibly having some connection problems, or it could be that they were just relying on hints quite a bit in order to get through this. But you should look out for students who are spending a lot of time going through a conversation, much more than you would expect if it was a real face-to-face conversation. Let's look at a couple of these other students. So this student here spent nearly 90 minutes so far practicing. And here we see this student has practiced on a number of simulations, and some of them he has practiced multiple times. So this student on trip to New York, he got up to 79%. And let's look at his profile over time. So we see, okay, so he started out just 2.5 turns per minute, but he practiced some more times. He was able to meet more objectives. The number of turns per minute also went up, and we see that the mastery score also improved. So we're seeing steady improvement through practice. This is what we want to see from students, that they practice multiple times and they keep getting better from doing it. My only criticism for this particular student is that he seems to still be using hints a lot. So probably using the transcript to read the responses rather than just to listen to them. And by the way, we are in the process of developing a new test mode for Nskill that takes all the hints away, and then that really forces the students to go through the conversation without depending on those hints to get through it. But even here, this provides useful feedback for teachers. They can see whether the students have gotten to the point where they can just engage in conversation, or are they still reading off the screen in order to get through it. Now let's look at one more student here. So this student, Consuela Gutierrez, she spent nearly 3 hours practicing. So she spent a lot of time, but her scores are very low. This is at the low end of what we would hope to see here. And let's look at one of these examples. So here for this one, actually for the first couple of times, she didn't meet any objectives. She was finally able to get through. One of them met the objectives, but the time spent in going through is still quite high, and that's part of why she got a low score here. So we can see here quickly students who they may be applying effort, but they seem to be struggling, and these are students that I would watch out for. I mean, the student who is putting in this much effort and not making progress, they may be having some difficulty. They need some special attention from the instructor to help them to get back on track. But the good news, again, is that you can see very quickly at a high level which students are progressing, which ones are not. And so with this capability, we're now we're going to be making it available shortly to instructors. We look forward to your feedback to see what insights you are able to gain from using these analytics that we are provided. We have additional data that we can provide. One thing that we have discussed, for example, is giving teachers the ability to actually listen to recordings of what the students say. We have that capability, but we want to get these capabilities out to teachers first and get feedback on those before we provide additional capability that maybe the instructors don't want. But anyway, we'll be looking forward to getting your feedback from this new capability. So you've seen here some of the main capabilities that we now have in Nskill. This, of course, only provides a partial view of how students are doing. They're not, it's not a substitute from actually listening to students speak. And so what the folks at UVM Toluca have done, which I think is excellent, is to have their students do WhatsApp recordings of them speaking using English. And so you can tell pretty quickly how students are progressing. So here are a couple of Toluca students. Let's listen to them, and you'll quickly hear one student is at a lower level of proficiency, another student is at a higher proficiency. They both have made progress in developing English skills, but there's farther they can go. So here's the lower level student.
My name is Paola. Alelo for me is an app to practice a conversation with avatar. I started using this app 3 months ago for my class of English in the university. It's easy to enter out. Also is easy to use.
So she's able to put sentences together. It's taking time and effort, and so she's speaking somewhat slowly, and that would be, we would expect similar to see a lower turns per minute rate for this student on the platform. Here's another student at a higher level of proficiency.
Hello, my name is Nskill Martinez, and I'm going to talk to you about my experience using Alelo. I started to using Alelo like 3 months ago when the teacher told us to use it. And Alelo is a platform where you can talk with an avatar.
So she's able to speak quite comfortably at a good speaking rate. So we would expect this to correlate with a higher turns per minute rate in the simulations. For classes at higher levels of proficiency, we also are starting to make available simulations of workplace English, of using English in business settings where they actually have to communicate at a level that's appropriate, at appropriate professional level. And if any of you are interested in that, let me know. We're happy to make that available to you so you can try it out. So here, the student is in a meeting with their manager and coworker and are talking about how they will improve their training program and what technologies they might use. Nskill is being used around the world, a number of different countries. Countries where we are just getting started are China and Colombia. And I believe a number of teachers from Colombia have signed up for this webinar. I welcome you, and we look forward to supporting your institutions. But this builds on experience that we've already had using Nskill in a number of different countries. China, we hope to get started shortly. We were going to get started at the beginning of the year, but then the COVID-19 pandemic forced us to put our plans on hold. But now we're starting testing in China, and so we look forward to supporting students there as well. So again, what we now are making available, in addition to the simulations that you're already maybe using, if you're, for example, at UVM, you're using the Laureate Level 1 and Level 2 simulations. So we now have the new Nskill 3 platform with these new analytics, the basic English, the transitional English, refresher English, and then this new advanced module in effective and persuasive communication. So if you are just getting started for the first time, we have a range of professional development materials that we can make available. Some of which we have developed ourselves, some of which our partners at various schools have made use of. So tutorials for teachers and students. This was a tutorial developed at UVM, a set of videos that illustrate for teachers and for students how to use the platform. In terms of how to integrate Alelo with classroom teaching, the approach that teachers commonly make is that they start at the beginning of the week, say on a particular topic, talking about the theory, the topics for that unit. Then students will practice on Alelo and then come back together at the end of the week for further learning and practice. And this approach works well both in class and hybrid and fully online. The students can practice on their own and then come back to class. When this, of course, now we have these new this new dashboard. When students do come back to class, the teacher then knows what students need to focus on, can encourage students to keep practicing to further improve their scores. So the teacher has access to information to provide feedback to the students of how well they've done in their asynchronous practice. So this helps to integrate the asynchronous learning with the synchronous classroom or online instruction that they're engaged in. The simulations are aligned with the CEFR can-do statements. So the idea here is that as students are practicing these simulations, they are developing the ability to perform these various different can-do statements. And because we are tracking their fluency using the turns per minute metric and the use of hints, we're really able to determine whether students are able to perform these can-do statements at a level of fluency which is appropriate for their proficiency level. And let me point out also, as I'm sure you know, that fluency is one of the things that is evaluated in standardized tests of English proficiency, be it the TOEFL speaking test or the IELTS test, that students need to be able to communicate in a natural and fluent manner. And that's something that they're not able to achieve just by reading from a textbook, here they're able to get the kind of practice they need to speak at the appropriate level of fluency and get comfortable speaking at that level. So we see that this is likely to have impact on overall metrics of spoken proficiency. So just to wrap up here and to reinforce what we have been talking about here, first of all, we're at Alelo are here to help you implement your programs and make them successful. We now have a new set of teacher professional development resources, alelo.com/teacher. I recommend that you go there. You will find there recordings of previous webinars, of tutorials, information that you can use to help get started using Alelo in your teaching. We will be happy to provide certificates of completion to you for attending this webinar. Just send us an email afterwards and we'll send you completion. We are making Nskill English available for free to institutions during this pandemic crisis to help get them started. Just let us know and we'll provide you registration so you can sign up. And we'll provide advice on any technical and instructional issues. I will also say to watch this space, we're currently developing additional lesson plans for how you can integrate Alelo and Nskill into your teaching. When those are done, we will make those available at the Teacher Professional Development website. So this is a resource that will continue to grow over time. Also, if you've been developing your own resources that you think other teachers might benefit from and are willing to share them, let us know. We are very much interested in helping teachers help each other in making effective use of this, this new technology. So that's the end of my prepared remarks. Let me stop screen sharing here. If you have any questions, type them in the chat window and I will be happy to respond to them. And while we're waiting, I'll just say hello to people I recognize who have tuned in from various countries. So again, welcome the folks in Toluca. I see Agnes Chung from Singapore. Thank you for getting up early for this webinar. It's very early out there. David Keys, who I think is in the US, but he might be in Saudi Arabia. Never quite sure from him. He's teaching out there. And other people who've have worked, taken time to join us. I'm glad you were able to take the time. Okay, so David is in Saudi. Well, welcome. So it's going to be an evening out there. It's a challenge for us, you know. We've got learners, users around the world now. I will say that those of you in the Gulf and in East Asia, if you would like us to schedule webinars at a more convenient time for you, let us know. We are happy to do this. Question came up, can students use Alelo in a Mac computer? Absolutely. I am running this on a Mac computer here. I will say though that you then have to use a web browser that supports microphone, either Firefox or Chrome. And we'll provide you with the information of which web browser you can use. But yes, you can use it on Mac computer, you can use it on a PC, you can use it on an Android mobile phone. And we are working now on getting it up on iPhone as well. Each of these devices has its own issues in terms of using the microphone, but we're getting close to having the iPhone version as well. And that, by the way, I think is really important, guys. If the students are able to practice on their mobile phones, they're going to practice more, and it'll be accessible to more students more frequently. So do encourage them to do that. Very good. Okay. And a question again from Toluca. Glad to be here with you all. That was part of my question. So thank you. So yeah, if you have any questions about using Alelo on particular computers or devices, let us know. We'll be happy to help you out. We got a comment from Denmark. Love the background. How about something like auto notifications to teachers about student progress? Oh, that's an interesting suggestion. So I think what I would say to you, Thomas, is that as we get more, if you will, more data from students of different learning trajectories, sort of, so we can see more examples of students who might be struggling, then yes, it makes perfect sense to highlight those students and even provide notification to the students who are having difficulty. Conversely, just notifying students, okay, are they online? Are they using the platform? Yeah, we can certainly do that. I'll discuss that with the team. That's a very interesting suggestion. Okay, well, I think we're good for now then. So again, we will be recording, or we are recording this session. We will post it to our website in the next day or so. So anyone who did not make it live to this presentation, certainly encourage you to go and view the recording and let us know if you have any questions. So I think we'll stop here. Have a good weekend, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, bye-bye.